So I'm going to be cutting this shirt on a pattern paper before transferring it to the main fabric. So I'll begin it by just taking 2-inch measurements on the edge of this pattern paper like this. Afterwards, I'm just going to connect the dots together. So the reason we are making this extra mark out, I'm going to be explaining it in the course of this video. Next, I'm going to take my shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 16 and 16 divided by 2 is 8. So whatever your shoulder measurement is, you're going to divide it by 2 and that's what you're going to mark at this point. So I went further after marking my shoulder measurement to take the shoulder width of my shirt. I'm using 3 inches for the shoulder width. I don't want the neck to be very wide because I'm going to be using a collar. So because I want the collar to close in on my neck, I'm going to be using 3 inches depth of a neck. I'm going to go further by marking 8 inches downward, which is going to be my chest line or my armhole depth, then 16 inches for my half cut. So I'm just going to make the lines visible. Extend the chest line, extend the half cut or the waistline. So the 8 inches that I took on the shoulder line, I'm going to take it on the chest line as well, so that I'll be able to have a straight line running from the chest line to the shoulder line this way. So I'm going to do my shoulder slope or shoulder slant. So for the shoulder slope, I'll come down by 1 inch on the armhole line. So I'm going to mark 1 inch and then I'll connect the 1 inch to the 3-inch width of the neck this way. Afterwards, I'll take the bust measurement. It is your bust measurement divided by 4. So for this bust, I'm using 40 for this bust. So 40 divided by 4, I have 10. So that's the 10 I'm going to be marking. Please note that I'm taking my measurement from this 2-inch line that I drew from the shoulder down to the end of the pattern paper. That is where I'm taking my measurement from. Then every measurement that is below the waistline is the hip measurements. So I'm going to connect the dots together. Bust point to waistline, waistline to hip. Then I'm going to be adding extra 1 inch allowance, that is the seam allowance. I'm still going to connect them together. So from the shoulder slope to the chest line, I'm going to take the midpoint on the armhole line. The midpoint here is 3.5, so I'm going to go in by half of an inch. That'll be my new armhole curve. To serve as a new armhole curve for me, that's for the front alone. I'm not going to do the same thing for the back. So underneath, I'm going to go up by 1.5 inches to give it a little curve. So it is optional to curve it, but I just want to curve it a little. So the space that we left all along is for the button. This is where we're going to attach our buttons and our buttonholes. So going forward, I'm going to fold this button line. I'm going to fold it inwards. So I'm not going to be showing how I cut the back of this pattern paper. One thing you should know is that once you fold it this way, you've gotten your back. The only difference would be that one has a button allowance and the other has a high neck. So let's do it together and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to connect the neck together and then I'm just going to mark it and then cut it out. So I'll lay it on the fresh pattern paper and cut out the back. So I've succeeded in cutting the back and the front together. So this is the front with the button allowance and this is the back with the high neck. So the difference between these two is that one has the button allowance, which is the front and the deeper neck, and then the second one has no button allowance but a high neck. That's the difference, don't forget that. So I'll set it aside and cut the fabric with them. So we've succeeded in cutting the back and the front. This is how it is. But then I had to make the fabric longer than the pattern paper because the pattern paper is not as long as I want it to be. So I extended my length on the fabric. Then I added extra 1 inch to the back piece. So this 1 inch is optional. So going forward, I'm going to spread the back pattern this way and then place a piece of the front pattern on the back shoulder to shoulder and do the second one as well, and I'm going to close the shoulders together and close the second shoulder together. So once you're done joining the shoulders, you come to the button allowance, the allowance that we left for the button, and then you can see how I am folding it inwards. So we are going to be folding it to the other side of the fabric, that's the wrong side of our fabric, and then we're going to sew on it this way down. Fold it again, then sew on it down. Do it for the first layer and do it for the second layer. After that, this is what we have. We've closed our shoulders neatly and I've ironed it. You can see the button allowance and the buttonhole allowance as well, looking very neat and already ironed. So I'll just adjust it together, and this is what it looks like. After I adjusted it, this is what it looks like. This is the button part. So the first step to cutting a collar is to measure the neck. So I'm going to begin the measurement of the neck by measuring from the beginning of the neck right until the end of the neck this way. So I have 18.5 for the whole neck. So I went ahead and I cut a band that was 19.5 in length and 1.5 in width. This is 19.5. I'll tell you the reason for the extra one, then I'm just going to slash in between because I folded them into two. So I'm going to hold it both together, and then I'm going to notch at the both sides of it. This is what I mean by notching at the both sides of it. I'm going to hold one side of it this way, notch, notch. After that, the roll part of the collar, I might be wrong, I don't really know it, but then I call it roll. So it's going to be laying on the band. So I also notched the middle of it, and this is 3 inches on fold, but when you open it, it is 6 inches in width. So I just folded it together. This is what I'm going to be using. I'm making it this big because I want it to be bold on the neck. So I'll just fold it like this. So just watch it at this point carefully. So I fold it together, and I'll either slash it this way or you slash it the other way, but I'm going to be slashing mine this way. So I'll mark 1.5 inches and just connect it to the edge of the fold. And I cut out. So this is what I'm left with. So to begin with, I'm just going to open it inwards, open it to the wrong side of it, fold it, and then I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and close this part and also close this part. After closing them, I'll fold it to the good side of it. So this is what it looks like once I was done. So the next thing to do, I'm going to open one of the band. I'm going to spread the band into two, open it one side this way. Then I already notched it on the middle part of the both of them. Then I'm going to place the roll on the band like this. Take the second one, lay it on it this way. It has to be good side to good sides, don't forget that. Then I'll just sew all the way to this point. Then I would close here and close here. So this is what it is. After closing it, I went ahead and I ironed it. This is what the color looks like, looking neat and it's beautiful. So heading over to our shirt, I folded the neck into two, folded the shirt into two, trying to get the middle point of the neck as well, then notch. So look at how I am going to be placing the collar on the shirt. It is good side to good side. I placed the first one there and then I left the part hanging upwards. So this is middle to middle. Then I went ahead and I started pinning it all around. At this point, you can't afford to make a mistake, so please watch what I'm doing carefully. Then I'm going to stitch all the way from the beginning of it to the end of it. So after stitching, I notched it with my scissors. This is how it looks like on the good side of it from the back. Then heading over to finish the collar stitching or the collar sewing, this is going to be lapping on the wrong side of the fabric. So I'm going to fold it inwards, and then I'll also go ahead and still pin it down. I notched it with my scissors already to make it very flexible and easy to work with for me. So I'm going to be repeating the process all through. So I'm going to head over to the sewing machine after pinning everything down, and then I'm going to stitch from the beginning up until the end of it, so that you have a neat finish like this one as well. So I'm done doing it. This is what it looks like. This is neatly finished, and this is what the outer part of it looks like. So next I will go over to the sewing machine, and then I'm going to close the two sides of the shirt together. After closing, this is what it looks like. You can see our button side, you can see the collar. This is ready. So the next thing I'm going to be doing right now is to fix my sleeves to the shirt. So to do that, I would fold it underneath, neatly iron it, and then fix it. So once that is done, I'm also going to be folding it underneath all around. So this is the outcome of what we've been describing. The next thing to do is to attach buttons and make button holes to the space provided for it. You can see how we folded it under. It's looking very neat. So get your buttons ready, because that's going to be the next step. So if you like this video that you just watched, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, turn on the bell icon so you're notified every time I upload a new video. Also, are you looking for a tutorial that explains how you can sew an overlap v-neck? Check the top right side of your screen, because I'll be leaving a link there. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video, and bye.